My parents hated the idea that I was white and my husband-to-be was black. They hated the idea of us kissing, or one day having child 10. In fact, they hated us both. They were against interracial marriage and wasn't afraid to let it be known. It didn't matter to Sly or I, we were in love from the first time we ever seen each other. Love at first sight. I used to tease him that we were like the yin-yang twins. What I lacked he had, and what he lacked I had. We were so much I love, there was absolutely no way I could ever betray him. He was the love of my life, my best friend, my twin flame. No one could ever be compared to him, no one. We had arrived at my father's farm 2 days earlier for a family meeting, and now we were all being summoned into the dining room. I knew it was bad news from the second we arrived. My mom Dot had been crying and she had a black eye. As I looked around the room, and noticed all the faces staring back at mine, my mouth watered and my hands shook. I knew I was going to have to defend my husband till the end. My dad was ranting and raving, someone was stealing money from his business, and we were going to find out today who it was. I heard the thump of his hands snaking together, I smelled the sweet smell of sweat, and the hymn that he had been drinking all day. As he was circling the table he kept getting closer to me. He grabbed me by my shirt and screamed in my face, "It was your black husband." I started screaming it wasn't him. "Daddy, let me go, please, I swear it wasn't him. It wasn't him. It was Brian," I screamed, and the whole room gasped with horror and disgust. "Shut up," my daddy screamed in my face. Then he once again began to circle the table with his gun in his hand. He was smacking the table every few feet with the palm of his hand, a loud thump, thump, before he made it a complete circle around the table. I fainted. I couldn't take it anymore, the yelling and fighting and fussing all over someone who stole from my father's business. He was adamant it was the only black person in the house. I didn't care if it was Sly, I would never betray him, never. As I came to, a few minutes later, I heard Sly whisper in my ear, "Just tell him I did it, please, if not he is going to hurt us all." I looked deep into his brown eyes and put my hand in his and I whispered, "I told you I would never betray you." My father continued cursing, screaming, knocking things over, slapping my mom in the face, as his face was turning more and more red, his veins in his forehead and neck kept getting bigger and bigger. I thought he was going to explode. Finally, I got to my feet and I looked my father in the eyes and I said, "I stole your money, it was me." He made a horrible screaming sound. "You filthy bitch, how dare you steal from me? I am your father." I looked him in the eyes and I said, "You may be my father, but you are not my husband." He grew angrier and screamed, "Get out of my house, you two, now leave. Take nothing with you but the clothes on your back." We looked at each other, grabbed each other's hands, and walked out the front door, our heads held high. We walked down the steps and kept on walking until we came to a clearing in the woods. I looked at the man I chose to marry, the father of my future babies, and I told him, I said, "I would never betray you. Wrong or right, bad or good, left or right, up or down, I'm here for you. You are the most loving person I ever met. And I would die for you." As W continued walking into the trees, it got darker and darker until we couldn't see out hands in front of our faces. By this time we were both tired, dirty, hungry and thirsty. So we stopped by a riverbank and took a break. Falling all asleep in each other's arms, my head on his chest. Neither of us knew it would be our last night together. The next morning we started walking west. Around noon I got the feeling we were being watched. Then we started hearing twigs breaking and dogs howling and men hooting. We were in trouble. I knew my father had called his family and us, and we were being hunted. Sly looked at me and pushed me away from him. He screamed, "I'm here, come get me." My dad answered, "It's not you, it's my thieving daughter I want." I started to shake all over. My daddy said, "Let her go, and you may live to see another day." I never saw this coming. Sly pushed me into an open clearing and screamed, "Here she is," and he ran away. I screamed, "Sly, please don't leave me," and he said, "I'm sorry, but I don't want to die." He took off running, never looking back to see if I was okay. The last thing I saw before my dad shit me was a look of disgust on his face. The last words I heard was, "I told you blood knees thicker than water." I does that day betrayed by a man I would have died for, a man I lived more than anything. I died alone. Betrayed by the one person I loved. I vowed revenge as I lay there dying on both him and my father. I vowed they would both pay.